Hello, friends, and welcome back. Well, I find myself sitting down for a catch up mid month rather than end of month. It just feels right, and I guess, in a sense, in my mind, this is my what was to be January catch up. I didn't sit down to catch up at the end of January because that month for me was a beast. It's as if January and December was one long tangled mess. Christmas, New Year, it was there, but then it was gone. It's kind of like a fleeting memory for me, strangely enough, because I really enjoy that period of time, and my family always has a wonderful Christmas day together. Like, we really do enjoy each other's company. And yet, I barely remember it. And I think it's because my workload, and this is highly, highly unusual, it tripled. The pace tripled and the workload itself tripled. And I do not exaggerate. So I don't know if you can hear my budgie going crazy next door. Sorry. He's in the next room listening to the radio. I hope that's not distracting for you. Anyhow, yeah, a very strange time. And it's as if 2020 said, look, I know I've been a complete bitch. And I've had a blast this year, so I might throw in one last obstacle, one last challenge before I go, just for a laugh. And maybe 2020 was laughing, but I tell you what, I wasn't, my friends. I can laugh now, which is why I'm catching up, but I couldn't then. All in all, it was just very stressful. And I think it's because also I'm programmed to really settle down at the end of the year. You know, I like to wind down, and I treasure that time because under normal circumstances, it's very, very quiet for me. That little pocket of time that I treasure, I've spoken about this before, and that's those days between Christmas Day and New Year's Day. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's me, myself, and I time. And even beyond the 1st of January, for me, under normal circumstances, it's very, very quiet for my tarot work and my muggle job. But of course, this year, carrying on from 2020, it was not to be so. Without going into all the minor details that I'm sure you are not interested in, I'll just say that actually I was sitting here having a bit of a giggle with myself before. I thought we could play that game, what's the worst time for? And if you were to ask me, what's the worst time of the year for, say, tenants to move out? I would say December. It happened. Okay, what would be the worst time to commence a renovation? Ooh, December or January? Oh, it happened. When is it the most difficult time to rally together a group of tradesmen who are willing to work during that time of year? Almost impossible, I'd say. Well, it happened. On and on she goes. Anyway, as it would happen, I managed to rally together such a team, and I was blown away and very impressed that they did actually top and tail Christmas and New Year to get this job done for us before they move on to some, bigger jobs towards mid to late January. So grateful. But of course, what that meant was, if they're working, so am I. Just to enlighten anyone who may be unfamiliar with what it is that I do, I don't think I've actually really spoken about it, but I have a muggle job. I work for 2 property owners, and they are not associated with each other at all. However, the job description is much the same. To keep it very simple, let's call it property management. And as long as I make my deadline, all is well. But like every job, every now and then you hit a spike. And what we tend to do is, when tenants move out, especially long-term tenants, a refurbishment, if not a full renovation, will follow. But of course, the tenants did happen to move out in December, which is not the best month, but they are well within their rights. So as it happens, I was faced with a renovation. It went very well, but wow, was it busy. And of course, if you are dealing with an older style building, you know to expect surprises. But that, along with some other personal challenges that came up in my life, there were a number of them, not even necessarily directly involving me, but I was still kind of pulled into it. Let's just leave it at that. You know what life's like. Anyway, it became for me, it became extremely overwhelming because my workload tripled and I'm just geared towards a peaceful time at this time of year. I think it's like the rug was pulled from under my feet. I didn't know what hit me. And one of the personal challenges, some of you already know, and that is my mother began to feel, well, she hasn't been feeling very well for a while, and she's quite elderly. She's very elderly. And once December hit, she really began to go downhill. So January, we find ourselves in emergency department at the hospital. But the good news is she was finally, after a whole lot of riffraff and toing and froing from doctors, etc., she was diagnosed with a blood disorder. And so it's not the best news, but at least we know that in a sense it is manageable with the right medication, but that is ongoing. So during the month of January, that kind of added to the stress. And anyway, my whole point is I got to a point where there were so many things coming. I tell you what I felt like. It was like living the Seven of Wands, and I could see on the horizon the Eight of Wands heading in my direction. Like I was the bullseye. So many things coming at me at once. When I say things, I just mean it could be emails and questions and requests, because I'm not even sharing what was going on with the other property manager. But if you said, what are the chances of this and this and this and this and this and this and this occurring during the 1 month, I would say, oh, come on, that's 15% chance maybe. But they did. Like, it was ridiculous. So that plus these, 3 main personal challenges that happened to come at once. And lo and behold, my mother was diagnosed with polycythemia vera, which at the end of the day, it is a type of cancer of the blood. Her dearest, most precious friend, who obviously is also very elderly, was diagnosed within the same month with a very similar disorder. And you find yourself looking up to the sky going, really? Is this funny to you? Come on. That's so unreasonable. Anyway, you have to push through, as you know. I was working a lot of extra hours, but it's a part of the job, right? I'm sure you've been there. You could be going through it right now. My anxiety levels began to rise a lot. However, once a renovation is complete, I get a pay rise. It's happened before. I've managed a renovation. I completed it. I got clients. I got new tenants in. It was as smooth as silk. It was a really wonderful experience and I enjoyed it. But this one was just a different kettle of fish. And I'm not blaming anyone. People were all in all the tradies were fantastic. But there were a couple of spiky moments that I had to, and I'm telling you this for a reason, but I had to stand in my power to push through that. By the end of the first week of January, I was so overwhelmed. I'm sure I hope you haven't, but I'm sure many people can relate to this. It's like that straw that broke the camel's back. Like if one more person asked for something very sweetly and politely, but just ask for something from me, I think I'm going to implode. I began to feel so overwhelmed. I would look down at my paperwork, the paperwork that I do, standing on my head, blindfolded. And it was like I was looking at a document in a foreign language. And I remember hearing in my head, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Meaning I don't know what to do next. There were just so many extra things going on. And none of them respectively are too much or overwhelming or unreasonable. But all together, it just snowballed. And my brain just fried. It froze to the point where I had to put everything down and walk outside, go for a walk, and then practice some earthing. You know, earthing, when you just sit down on Mother Earth. I went to the park, I sat on the grass, and you just stay there for at least a half an hour. ooh, just let it all drain away. Let it drain away. But you literally feel like you are being cradled by Mother Earth. Now, this happened, these little, I would go as far as calling them anxiety attacks, occurred again and again over a period of 2.5 weeks. And I was actually getting concerned for my health. My nervous system was really very, very upset. And lucky for me that I do have a number of techniques I can use. I mean, you know, I meditate, I do yoga and stretches every single day. I eat well, yet I still found myself in this headspace that was just really, I wouldn't call it dark, but it was complete shutdown. And I would not wish this upon any person. And my heart goes out to people who do suffer panic attacks. I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't do anything. Anyway, I share this story with you because I drew some cards, and it's very interesting when you reflect upon the cards that you drew. I drew 2 weekly spreads, which amazes me that I even got the time, or took the time, should I say, to do them. I don't even remember drawing those cards. The bird's going nuts. That means excitement, just in case you're wondering. So I lost my train of thought because of the budgie. Oh my goodness, what was I saying? Anxiety. Oh no, hang on a moment, I've got it back. So I drew some cards twice, right, for 2 separate weeks during the month of Jan. And I don't even remember sitting down to do so, but I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I recorded them in my journal. Otherwise, I would never have remembered the cards. And I also drew a few cards for the month of January. And of course, you get to the end of the month. Yes, indeedy, it makes complete sense. But as it happens, January being, my January being the January that it was, something happened. I can't share with you these circumstances because they're not mine to share. But there was a change for the owners that affected everything. And so I should explain, I look after 1 block of apartments, so I manage that. They manage the rest of their properties and I do the paperwork. As it happens, due to these changes that would perhaps bring about some complexities, they've decided, because they're well into their middle age now, it may be better for them, start the new year afresh, hand everything over to a well-established real estate agent that they know and trust. It's a bit of a story, but it makes sense. And I will just say, I love them, they love me, we will be friends forevermore. They hope that they can actually employ me again for perhaps another project. But this particular situation, they felt it best that they just hand it over so they can at least sit back and enjoy life a little more, because it's been very, very busy for them also. So what that means is I worked my tail off, triple the hours, and then found myself retrenched. What are you doing to me? What are you doing? There it is, my friend. So come the end of January, I found this out actually. I think it was the 2nd or the 3rd of Feb. Wow. But you know the interesting thing? The interesting thing is, I believe this is destiny at play. It goes beyond the decision that the owners made. I've seen it many, many times where anyone who's traveling through a 9 personal year of endings, numerology I'm speaking, and that was me for the majority of 2020, 9 times out of 10, you will find that the first quarter of your 1 personal year, you know, you run in cycles of 9. So you go from endings and a big change, jump over the cusp into the 1 personal year. We're starting all over again. It's like an ace. And you will find that there will be a number of things that didn't either get the chance to settle down and dissolve, or we hang on to them, or we're completely unaware that they need to go at times. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. if they are meant to go, they will go. So if it doesn't occur during your 9 personal year, you can bet your bottom dollar that it will occur in the first quarter of the 1 personal year to follow. It's just clearing the way. It's like the death card. So I do believe that it is part of my destiny to let that job go. And as much as I enjoyed the job, it's not the be all and end all. It's not a career for me. It's not a direction in which I wish to, grow and expand my horizons and all this kind of stuff. No. I thought I'd do that job for about 12 months. And as I say, it's just approaching 5 years now. So we've had a very, very good run. It was meant to be. But I just would have liked a little bit of notice, because now my muggle job wage has literally halved. So it takes a bit of adjusting, but we all have bills to pay, and it has left me feeling a little bit shaky, I won't lie. But the exciting thing is you get that universal kick up the backside, I think. It's a destiny kick. To get on with things that you've been dreaming of doing for quite a while. And yes, I had all these wonderful ideas for 2020, and then that was shut down, as it was for everyone. And it's as if, something inside of me is saying, well, it's not 2020 anymore, so how about giving it a go? And where I was obviously very comfortable. And so sometimes that discomfort, that little scare is what we need. So I'm going to roll with that philosophy, my friends. So you see here 3 cards. This is the first of 2 3-card spreads that I drew for January. No particular prompt, and I wasn't also asking what will happen as such. It's just 3 cards. Show me what needs to be shown. That's about it. And obviously for reasons of duration, I'll keep it short and simple, but that's really the whole point of sharing this. It is possible to draw so much information even without delving too deep, even keeping it as simple and as straightforward as, say, the images that you see before you, and that's what I love. You can dive as deep as you choose with tarot. So first of all, you'll see here the 8 of Cups, beautiful card. Oh, this, by the way, for anyone who's interested, this is the Solara Occulto Tarot. I love the artwork, and the colour palette is just delish. And of course, this is me. So at the beginning of the year, I was wondering, oh, what does this pertain to? And as you all know, it's night sky. Where am I headed? Not sure. The stars will guide me. All I do know is it's time to move on. And when I see the 8 of Cups, well, a number of things come to mind, but I always see beautiful cups stacked with respect. They're not just tossed aside. They are left. It's almost like I need to move on. I'm leaving these for whomever discovers them. The right person will find these cups, and they are filled with my experience. It's like liquefied experience and emotion and wisdom. And that led me to think, well, if I'm leaving them behind, the emotional connection to that job is no longer, or the emotional connection that I thought I had with that job is no longer. Whatever it be, I'm destined to move on. And clearly I don't need them. Otherwise I'd be carrying them with me. And of course 8 is movement and production, and there's a lot of strength behind the 8 energy for me. So I have the strength to traverse these hills and mountainsides, because I just know intuitively that it's time to move on. So if I didn't leave the job would leave me, one or the other. And as it happened, the job did leave me. So I feel like it's that little destiny kick. You need your butt kicked from time to time by destiny itself to get you moving, because I was, well, not intentionally playing it safe, but really that was by having these 2 positions that basically blend together as one. I could sit on that comfortably. So I'm not living on the edge. I'm not forced to get out into the world and get something else done, like something that I'm truly passionate about, am I? Not forced to, until now. So I do feel that destiny did speak loud and clear. And where am I heading? Well, I'm heading straight for the Magician's Den. And he reminds me that whatever I need is at my fingertips. He reminds me it's my job to create. It's my job to formulate the next step. It's my job to do something. What? Well, what do you want? He reminds me that all the excuses under the sun will not cut it, because even if I am filled with trepidation over taking the plunge and going the next step, just say, out with one job, in with the new. That's basically what these cards are saying. So it's time for me to start something myself yet again, to put myself back out into the local community and start afresh, because I pulled basically my business down to a third of what it was over the past 2.5 years. And so I feel that the Magician is reminding me that, well, that's your decision, that's fine. You know, I don't know where to start, or I'm not sure how to go about it. Whatever it is, he's saying, no, that's not going to cut it. You should be excited that you have really, if you take the time to look, you do have the capacity, you do have everything you need. You have these opportunities. You've just got to start. Well, you've just got to take action. You've got to get the ball rolling. Personally, I see it as a very positive card here, but just saying, if I don't see any hold-ups or excuses, but if I were to sit quietly in the corner and convince myself, oh, look, I'll just wait and see what happens, I do believe that the Magician is a timely reminder, saying, well, it's not about waiting. It's about conjuring up what it is. Even just a plan, says the Queen of Swords. Just get a plan into place. Get your concepts down on paper. No one's saying you've got to have everything sorted out next week, but do something, because you left behind these beautiful cups. Nothing wrong with them, but it's a little bit like standing in a room and you stretch your arms and realize you've hit the wall. You've outgrown that space. What do they say? If you play small, you'll stay small. So it's time for an adventure, and I can truly relate to that, to be totally honest with you. So I knew in my heart it was time. I probably would have made a move sometime during this year, and as it happens, the time was January, whether I like it or not. And I don't think there are any mistakes, so I do trust this series of events that occurred during January. So I do love this. The person in this card, me, is walking towards the Magician. The Magician has a very funky little onesie on here, and as you can see, we have some beautiful stars down the front. Magic is in the air, and it carries through again. Look, the snake is even looking into the future. It's as if the snake morphs into this beautiful raven, and there are the stars, this continuing energy. The stars sit before the Queen of Swords. So we've commenced this journey by night, and as it happens, the sun does rise yet again. So we're starting to see, and of course, we're starting to see because it's getting lighter. We can see because we're outside, and there's fields and hills, there's space around us. And this raven here taking flight, it's time for you to take flight. Freedom of the mind is, clearing the mind is freedom. And having the freedom to invite new ideas and new concepts, and if nothing else, write them down on paper. But what is it that you envisage doing? And she has wings of her own. I love this sword as well. You can see again, this sword energy is carried. It's funny, isn't it? It's facing this way and is carried through and lands in her hands. And the point of the sword is like a pinprick. It's so sharp. It's so precise. So she is really very, very focused. And she's telling me what I need to do. Focus. The raven reminds me to broaden my horizon and see the bigger picture, take a bird's eye view, etc. I mean, you can take your mind anywhere. That's the beauty of the air element. Even when I look at her gaze, no doubt the idea here is she's focused on the sword that she holds right in front of her face, yet to me it looks like she's looking out to the future. She's certainly taking in her surroundings. There seems to be so much space here, and yet here, when I was living the Eight of Cups energy, you can see, you know, a lot of hillsides and mountainsides. There's not that sense of space and room, which again reminds me of that little visualization I always think about, you know, stretching your arms. Bonk. I've hit a barrier here, so that's why I had to move on. So in other words, if I stayed, if I begged the people that I worked for, oh, please give me 6 months or something, I would only be cutting off my nose despite my face, because I would end up feeling like I was being boxed in. There's no doubt it was destined to occur. So the crux of the whole thing is, it's out with the old, in with the new. How do I get the new? Well, you tell me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about that? What will you brew up for yourself? New concepts and new adventures, new ideals. You can make plans. Let's go. I really feel quite excited about this particular prospect. And I must admit, I always keep in mind with the Queen of Swords, I've seen so many times over the years with clients, often the Queen of Swords will pop up when, well, there's a strange irony here, because I was just going to say, when women especially, not just women, but more often than not, women have been through a very big, perhaps traumatic shift, like a divorce, as an example. Queen of Swords 9 times out of 10 will come. And you know how there is that element of the Queen of Swords that some people talk about, that because she's all air in her head, not a lot of emotional fuel. So people who've just been through some trauma or drama come to the tarot table saying, you know what, I'm absolutely exhausted. Like, I can make decisions. I know I've got to move house. I know I've got to sell the old house. I've got to change school for the kids. I've got all that down. But I feel mentally drained. I've got nothing. I gave everything to my marriage, and on an emotional level, I have very little to offer. I'm tired. That kind of feedback has come through, at least in my arena, many, many times, even myself over the years. And I do feel a little bit of that, because January was not an easy month at all. Neither was December. So I can also appreciate that. However, when I look at this particular Queen of Swords, it makes me want to breathe deep and stretch my arms. And of course here there is plenty of room, and adopt that new mindset, and remind myself that I'm free to go wherever I choose to go. In all honesty, I am. The only thing that's going to hold me back is my own limited belief system. And with these wings and this space, there's just no excuse to hold yourself back. Create your own magic. It starts with an idea. A simple idea can take you anywhere. I said I wasn't going to go on and on, so I'd better just leave it at that. So much to say, but I won't burden you. Just wanted to show you this. I, for fun, took a couple of pieces of paper and wrote a whole lot of words just off the cuff in here, so I can have a little dig around. I love doing things like this. It's like a lucky draw. And what I drew in this particular case was, first of all, planet. And I thought, planet, what about planet? Planet, and then I drew energized. So I asked, well, which planet are you speaking of? Now, I made some cards, little mini planetary glyphs some years ago, like I'm talking the 1990s. These have been around for a long time. Simple as ever. But anyway, just for these occasions. So I did the little bit, I'll get it out. I did the lucky dip and drew out Mars. So once again, that does make a lot of sense, right? We need to take action. I mean, Mars is energy, but I think it's saying this is what you need to activate right now. So is it time to sit back or go into the past or get lazy, hide away? No. No, 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 no. Not at all. Then, just for a laugh, I drew from the Ascended Masters that I have not used in 1 century. This is actually in my little cupboard to pass on. But I just felt compelled to draw a card, and the intuition always knows, because what I drew was this. Balance, home and career life. Well, ironically, I work from home, and was there a balance in either? No. It was madness all round, and I was exhausted. I really was. So it never ceases to amaze. Now I'll show you the other 3 cards only because you'll see that the theme is very, very similar. So with the Spirit Speak, I drew. So talk about hill. Oh, not another hill. Look at that. Hill to climb. And then the Hanged Man instead of the Magician. And the Ace of Swords. But you can still see the theme, right? So I did have to carry a whole lot of stuff. And I remember seeing this card thinking, oh no. It's that feeling of just when I think I've reached the top, there's another segment that I have to climb, another hill, carrying a heavy load. But isn't that fascinating? Because in this particular card, well, I've left the cups behind. And here we have the wand saying, well, unfortunately, you do have to carry these to a certain point. But then it's up to you to let them go when you hit the 10. But of course, as you know, in the 10 of Wands, we often see in many decks people struggling to carry the 10. And I feel like that's why the 9 came up. It's like you carry them from here to the next port of call, and then you must leave it. That's as far as you go. You do not continue on to the 10. And the Hanged Man, really interesting again. Higher mind. Well, even to utilize the energy of the Magician, we need to step out of the conscious ego. It's not just about logic, is it? And so the Hanged Man, I think, says a number of things, including time. You need to give this process the time that it deserves in order to unfold. And this is a process. It's still that out with the old. This is where the magic occurs, and in with the new kind of storyline. But it will take time. And also, I think for here, while I was feeling very 9 of Wands, and I think the Hanged Man was reminding me to reassess my problem-solving skills. Right? Because you either allow this to weigh you down physically, which ends up emotionally and, of course, mentally, or you can clear the way. And just to go completely textbook, look at this particular scenario from a positive angle. Yes, it is a heavy load, but look how much you've learned. Look how much experience you're walking away with. And you've still got a wonderful relationship with the people you work for. And, you know, the list goes on. Even just from a personal challenge perspective, you did it. You did get to the next port of call. You did deliver the goods. This is the renovation. This is the bookwork. This is the archives that I had to go through and clean up a bit of a mess from the person that I took over from. I'd never gone back into the old files up until now, but I wanted everything in order for them. So I did get there in the end. And so I think the Hanged Man was saying not only clear the way, but just make sure you see this for what it truly is. It's a wonderful experience. And considering you were going to stay there for 12 months maximum, and now we're pushing 5 years, hello. And then we jump to the Ace of Swords, starting again, starting afresh. Here we go, let's go, go, go. And that once again takes me back to Mars. So it is undeniable, the message. And just like the Ace, I am in a 1 personal year, and there it is. The Ace of Swords works beautifully with the Queen here. And something may come very, very quickly, suddenly and unexpectedly too with this lightning. Now, there were other cards, and I won't go there, other than to say I did draw a lesson card, like what will be my lesson for the month of January, and I thought this was very interesting. I drew from the Bone Stone, which I don't have the box in front of me, I'm sorry, but this is the Bone Stone and Earth Flesh, but I just had to show you this card because that face, swords yet again, the King of Swords this time. And I cannot get over the gaze, especially with the kings in this deck. Wow, Anaturian, like it's just so powerful. And does King Arthur look like he's here to pussyfoot around? Does he look like he's going to bow down to you? Not really. And that's what I love, because I found that during the month of January, I'll say it this way. Not only did I meet up with a King of Swords type character, and by the way, I don't look at, under normal circumstances, I don't look at court cards as people coming into my life, right? It's more about an energy and how the energy is moving, how it's going to manifest. But it still does occur, as you know. And so I like to remain open, but under normal circumstances, the first thing I think of is a process or an energy before I think of a person. But as it happens, I did bump into a King of Swords. I was required to deal with the King of Swords. But I feel like the lesson was not only to deal with the King of Swords face to face and honestly, but also I was required to tap into the essence of the King of Swords within myself, which isn't always on hand. And so I'm pleased that I was able to carry it through, I guess I could say. And I'm so pleased I drew this card, because when I was out there in the field, I remembered his eyes. He's sitting on my mantle at home. And when I was dealing with this person, it just jumped to my conscious mind. Oh my God, that person during a conversation began to get a little pointy, how appropriate, with their words. And what followed were a number of, well, King of Swords personal traits. So I knew what I was in for, and that's when I realized it was time for me to tap into that essence within myself, remembering, of course, the mantra, well, at least the mantra for me, I see calm. When it comes to the King of Swords, I see calm. So you're not going to get all crazy emotional here. Business is business, and this is business. And sometimes we'll meet up at the boardroom table and everything will be as smooth as silk, and other times there may be a battle of wits. There may be a debate or two. That's okay on both sides of the coin. And so I remembered, what is the King of Swords here to do? He's here to present his case. He's here to solve a problem. He's here to make an announcement. He's here to get the contract signed. He's here to chair the meeting. He's here to sort it out. He's here to delegate or direct. He's not here to make friends. And that's what that is what actually jumped to my mind at that very moment. And I thought, look, he can be very charming and polite and well-mannered, but he can also be very ruthless. He's got certainly an air of authority, and he's very direct of speech. He's not going to mince his words. All of the above. And so when this person started getting a little snappity snap, that mantra, I see calm, was going through my mind at that very time during that conversation, and just reminding myself that I'm here to deliver a message, and they don't like what I have to say, or should I say whether they like what I have to say, or whether they get what they need out of me at this time. Well, that remains to be seen. That's irrelevant. I just do my best to convey the message and obviously report back to the owners, which is basically how things turned out. I felt really proud of myself at the end of it, because I know the person that I was years ago I mean, I'm getting on now, middle-aged, but I'm saying as a younger person, I would have been very much in the cups. I'm a very watery by natal chart. I feel things very, very deeply, and it was difficult and challenging for me not to take things personally. So I've had to work on that for years. I suppose I'm just pleased to say I can finally, I wouldn't say every time, but most of the time, it's water off a duck's back for me now. Just don't make the whole scenario that important. It's not a life and death situation, right? Whereas you know what it's like when you're younger and the job means the world to you, and yeah, you just want everything to be perfect, and you have to learn that that's just not what it's about, and that's not the case. Anyway, I share this with you for one reason, and that is I have found drawing a lesson card over the past few months to be so very helpful. It is an eye-opener, and it's always very honest and straight down the line, but I gain so much out of it by reflecting on my lesson card. And as I say, it's a two-way street. And, you know, the irony, once again, life is a double-edged sword, and that's exactly how I experienced the King of Swords. But it helped me stay respectful to the other person that at times I get on very well with, but at other times I find this person extremely obstreperous. I'd like to do more of this because it's just so enjoyable to reflect on your experiences. Even after all these years, it still blows my mind. So I hope you gained something out of it, if nothing else, just to be enthused to pick up a deck and maybe draw some cards from a different perspective, maybe do something a little different to what you've done before. That's what I'm going through at the moment, just enjoying doing things a little differently and looking at different decks that I wouldn't normally perhaps pursue. So let's see where that ends up. Anyway, until next time, all the very best. Thank you so much for staying with me. I appreciate you. I hope everything's going well, and I'll talk to you soon. Till next time,